welcome to another episode of the Low Voltage Training Academy question and answer period. So, we're going to have you guys call in and ask any questions in reference to what we do in the low voltage field or anything that you may want to ask in reference to such. So, let's see. All right, here we go. We got the first question set. I'm ready for you.
Awesome. So, the first question is about your experience. Can you just tell me about a time when a fire alarm system, like you installed or service, kind of prevented a major incident? Do you have any stories where something like that happened?
Fortunately, we never had any experiences like that. Maybe a smoke detector was triggered by somebody smoking, or maybe a piece of paper burning, but we're very thankful that we've never had any such incident. But we are required to check the systems once or twice a year to make sure that the systems are functioning properly. But I'm very thankful we've never had that instance. Pardon me, but we do make sure that when we're installing the systems, that they're all up to code, and we make sure we do our job properly.
Awesome. So, another question about fire alarms, like what's the most challenging installation you've ever done, and what should you be looking for to learn from when you're doing different installations, especially when it's more tough?
Absolutely. Knowing the right system to use in your design is very important. So some of the most challenging systems that we've had have been when you have multiple buildings, and then evacuation systems, as well as elevator recall systems. What that is just say you're in a 10-story building and you have an elevator recall. So we put smoke detectors on the outside of the elevators. So if the smoke detector on floor 7 happens to trigger, we tell the uh, fire alarm system and the elevator recall system, you cannot go to floor 7, go to another floor. So if you're on the 8th floor, it won't go down. If you're on the 6th floor, it won't go up. That's called the elevator recall system. So those are pretty neat and challenging because you have to add additional relays in, but we do those often. Also, with the voice activation system. So whenever you have like hotels and large places of gatherings, and people could be in different parts of a building, say a casino or anything like that. Also, parks, places just of large assemblies of people. What we normally do is we have the evacuation system that will tell people there's a fire on the 7th floor or there's a fire on the 8th floor. Please do not go to that floor. Please evacuate the building immediately. So those systems are pretty challenging. Or we also have a microphone that's at the evac main station, and someone can give verbal commands, not just the automated commands, but you can do verbal commands as well. And you'll see that in schools a lot of times when you're doing fire drills. And that's why it's super important that these systems are installed properly, meticulously, as well as inspected at least once a year, but quarterly would be ideal.
Awesome. Now, as far as access control goes, have you ever had to troubleshoot a major access control when you're either setting it up, or maybe you came back for a service call, or however it is? Can you give me a time where that happened, and how you fixed it?
So normally service calls are due to something so simple, and that is the connection of wires. We train our technicians to make sure the wires are secure, that they can't be pulled apart, and we have small wires. And because we have small wires, other trades sometimes will destroy our wires by accident because they don't see anything immediately happening. They'll just cut our wires. Or we've had rodents that have chewed through our wires. These are low voltage wires, very thin, and rodents will chew through them and cause issues. But for the most part, once you leave a job and you've programmed everything properly and all of your wiring um, is properly done and secured properly, normally you shouldn't have too many service calls after that. So the ones that we have had have normally been for those reasons. Maybe a rodent got to it, someone cut a wire, and on a very few occasions, it's been because of a loose wire. Maybe a technician didn't tighten the wire properly, but we're sticklers for that. You have to go back and check to make sure your wires are secured and where moisture or anything can't get in them as well.
Awesome. Now, as far as the actual course goes, I know in the course every single section has a troubleshooting specific tab to it, so you know what to do. Um, Current kind of when things are not the way you're wanting them to go. Now, I want to ask about just wiring since we're kind of on that right now. You kind of just told us a story about it. So, what's like a super difficult like location for like when you're running wires, and sometimes that can be a roadblock for people and everything like that. So that's another like kind of how to troubleshoot
Excellent
that too.
question. One of the most difficult places to run wire would be through concrete or through brick.
Mm,
In the United States, we mostly use sheetrock, but there's occasion where there's brick. So that's how you have, then at that point, you have to know how to use conduit, have the proper drills to drill through brick, have the proper drill bits and drills to make your job much easier. As we advise all of our students, buy tools one time. They could be super expensive, but it's worth it because it will make your job easier. Get good drill bits, concrete bits. Nowadays, a 2 foot concrete bit that's maybe 3/8 inch or a half inch may run $60 or $70. But when you're going through a wall that's 18 inches of concrete or brick, you'll be so happy that you've had it. So you have to make sure you have the proper equipment and know how to use conduit. When you have external devices like that, we normally use metal conduit. Plastic conduit can be used in some instances, but metal conduit is the best.
mm-hmm. Okay. Now, as far as us like in the course, right, and us kind of walking through it, on our own and things like that, what kind of things can you recommend us to do while we're going through the course to really maximize the experience?
You know, every place that you go, if you go to the shopping store, the grocery store, if you go any store, you'll see some of our work. And it's always a good idea to try to look around, not try, but go look around and see what the installers have done. There's not a store that you won't go into or a business that you won't go into that won't have one of the things that we're teaching at the Low Voltage Academy. So whether it's a surveillance system, fire alarm system, access control, a security system, you'll see those devices. So it's a great idea to see when you're walking around these businesses or the locations. I still do it now after being in this field for so long, just to see how people do things. And then you learn do's and don'ts. As a technician, being neat and meticulous is very important. So if you see wires hanging, it doesn't look attractive. So you want to make sure that when you do your job, you make sure that your wires are tight, they're neat, you have a service loop in them, just to make the job um, look professionally done at the end of the installation.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to the next question and answer period. Take care, guys.